online-only single-player game. 5 words that guarantee that any game that does this will ultimately be a huge flop. After Rocksteady's newest game that already looked like a big letdown, Suicide Squad comes back after a 6-month hiatus to reveal that they've made a few changes. The biggest, and yet the least talked about, is that the game is completely reliant on an internet connection just to play it, even when you're playing single player. There is honestly no reason for you to need to be online just to play a single player game, and the only reason this could possibly be used for is for added DRM. But honestly, that can be defeated by pirates anyway, so your paying customers are going to be screwed when the servers are inevitably turned off, making the game completely useless in the future. Imagine playing Super Mario World when you're a kid, and 20 years later you suddenly get that nostalgic rush to play it again. You can still do that if you still have your copy of Mario Brothers and a Super Nintendo. But if it had a reliance on being constantly connected to the internet, well, your game might as well be a doorstop. But you could always rebuy it from the Nintendo store. Oh wait, they took that out too. You can have the privilege of paying $20 a year to play a game that you bought decades ago on a new console that you also had to buy. Buy. Just keep rebuying everything, because that's what it boils down to. Just waste your money on crap. A big reason I'm not a fan of digital games either. When the game's gone, it's gone. Lots of great games have been left on old consoles, never to be played again. And, well, maybe that's why they make these games tied to the internet, so they can force you to buy it again when they port it to another console, or make a sloppy remaster years later. But this is not a new thing either, as people over the years have been very clear in voicing their concerns about online-only single-player in games. But of course, they keep making them because enough of you people keep buying them. But what's the problem? Everyone has internet. This dude's just yapping. To be honest, you could use a good yapping too. And if you're fine with buying something that's going to be a paperweight in a few years, that's great. For you. There are a lot of fools ready to buy useless gadgets for double the price. I mean, people bought this thing. It's a controller with a screen on it. That again is useless without an internet connection. But for the rest of us, we'd rather be able to play the games that we bought whenever we want to, not whenever they allow us to. I'm not paying $70 for what amounts to a glorified rental. I'm not paying $70 period for any game either, but that's beside the point. But that's where the industry is heading if people don't wise up. Game Pass, PS Plus Extra, Nintendo Online, all of these things are meant for you to give up your ownership of the copy you bought. But you bought a license, not a game. Wrong. When you buy a game, you enter an agreement of what you can or can't do with that license to play the game. But the copy of that game is yours to keep as long as you adhere to the agreement in the license. But with the online component, you are now tied to the publisher's servers, who never really actually allows you to own that copy of the game that you bought. Your license becomes limited, instead of for the lifetime of the product. As long as your disc or cartridge still works, and your console or PC can run it, you can and should be able to play it as many times as you want. You can even lend out the games to friends or sell your copy. But with a limited license, the online connection stops you from doing any of this. You essentially have a time limit on when and how long you can play that game. So tell me, why are you happy about a limited license when you've always had it unlimited before? There is no advantage to having an online connection to play the game, other than to strip your rights away from your purchase. And as we've seen time and time again, day one games like The Sims, Diablo, Gran Turismo 7, Forza 8, and just recently the spectacularly bad launch of Payday 3. Whenever there is a server issue, you will not be able to play the game that you legally bought for quite some time. The game is already downloaded and installed, and you could play it if it wasn't for their ridiculous online connection. You can't even play it with bots if that's the case either. It's just a useless waste of hard drive space. But since they have the game on a leash, you're screwed out of your money. It really is borderline fraud at that point, at least until they get their servers ready to accommodate all of the players. But why should you even need to do that in the first place? It's a single player game. You aren't playing with anyone online. If you want an online mode, leave that separate from single player, like it's always been. I was already cautious about Suicide Squad when it was announced, and with the recent review build of the game, I was getting a little bit optimistic about the gameplay. A mix of Sunset Overdrive with DC characters, it might be okay, but now that they said that it's always online, even for the single player, they've guaranteed that I will never buy this game. Maybe I'll wait for some intrepid captain to make a way in the future, but as it is now, no thanks Rocksteady, no thanks.